good afternoon, whatever time, evening.
Dr. Vines is here. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm joined by my colleagues, Multnomah County Chair Deborah Kafoury and Portland City Mayor Ted Wheeler. Since the first case of COVID-19 was discovered in Oregon, life has changed for all of us. It's not just here at home. This disease has truly transformed our way of life for Oregonians, for Americans, and for people across the globe. Here in Oregon, we all see that the storm is coming, but we still have time to change its course. We all talked several times today and met earlier this afternoon to come forward with a unified plan that works for the people in the Portland metropolitan area and all across the state. We are standing here together on the eve of spring break with a very important message for Oregonians. Social distancing, done well and done early, saves lives. We have agreed on a plan called Stay Home, Stay Healthy, which is both an order and a public awareness campaign. We have put into place aggressive social distancing orders to protect you, our neighbors, and our most vulnerable Oregonians. I have been very clear. Social distancing measures are the most effective way to flatten the curve and slow the spread of the virus. But these measures don't work unless we all follow them every single day. Every single action that we take has an impact in this new reality of living with COVID-19. We are truly all in this together. Your actions right now mean the difference between life and death for yourself and for others. I know this is extremely difficult for everyone. This is a very bitter pill to swallow, as Dr. Vines said earlier this week. It is not easy for those who cannot visit their loved ones in nursing homes, long-term care facilities, or hospitals. It's not easy for parents trying to balance work and childcare where our schools are closed. It's not easy for the thousands of Oregonians whose employers have had to close their doors. None of this is easy. But there is still time for all of us to make a difference, and I want to thank everyone who's been observing these measures. We all need to stay home to stay healthy. Pleased to turn the mic over to Mayor Ted Wheeler.
Thank you, Governor. We as elected leaders feel the weight of every decision we make on public health and public safety, because we know that these decisions come at a heavy price, both socially and economically. But we also know that the sooner we act and the more aggressively we act, the sooner we'll be on the road to recovery. What I'm seeing and what other elected leaders around the country and around the world are seeing is that aggressive social distancing works. States, counties, and cities around the country are already taking this step. We must join them, and we must join them now with one voice. We're doing this together, and we're not doing this just at the city level or the county level. Now we're doing it statewide. Governor Brown, Chair Kafoury, and I will be working together to prepare the next steps. This is a fast-moving pandemic, and it changes day by day, even hour by hour. And that's why we're moving aggressively to stay ahead of the virus and contain it. We must make decisions to save human lives, because that's truly what's at stake. Now, I know many people around the state are already following guidelines and exercising social distancing practices. Thank you. You've heard and read the term shelter in place. I've used it, other jurisdictions have used it. And what we've learned is that the term is not clear, and it's often confusing to people. It makes people think of lockdowns from earthquakes and natural disasters and the like. And that's not what this is. I want to emphasize this. This is not a lockdown. This will be a stay-at-home unless it's absolutely necessary order. You'll still be able to go to the grocery store to get gas, to walk your dog, to go visit or care for an aging parent, to take a hike, for example. I know you'll have questions about many other aspects of this, and we'll be working on those specific details over the weekend, and we'll have much more to share on Monday. I know there's a lot of uncertainty and anxiety around this, but we're not alone. Other cities and other states are with us. Los Angeles, San Francisco, all of the state of California, New York State, and Illinois have all moved in this direction. And between tonight and when we're back in front of you on Monday, I want to say this. In the meanwhile, use common sense. Observe social distancing when you're out. This is a time for all of us to rise to the challenge. It's up to you and it's up to me to determine how deep this crisis will run and how long it will last. It's dependent upon our own behavior. I want to end with this. Let's look out for each other. We do this a lot in the city of Portland. Let's look out for the most vulnerable amongst us. If you know people who live alone, or they're socially isolated, or there's an older adult in your building, give them a call. Check in. Make sure they're doing okay. So many of you have already done this already, and I'm very humbled as your mayor to be a witness to this. Please reach out via text or phone call to your friends and family. Check in on them. This is a good time to do that. In the meanwhile, stay home and stay safe. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Deborah Kafori, and I'm your Multnomah County Chair. COVID-19 continues to pose the greatest challenge to public health and our systems of care that most, if not all of us, have ever seen. And I said it earlier this week, but I'll say it again. Our ability to limit the impact of this virus will come down to individual behavior, clear guidance, and decisive collective action. We've taken dramatic action to slow the spread of this virus. We've ordered schools to close statewide. We've asked people to work from home. We've closed public buildings and suspended a lot of important services. In Multnomah County, you can no longer go to the library. You can't even get a marriage license. This is a scary time for all of us, and we naturally want to be together. But the power of these orders to limit the spread of the virus is diluted when we gather. And I've been seeing and hearing reports that are very concerning. So I came here tonight with Governor Brown and Mayor Wheeler because I felt a sense of urgency as people are getting ready for spring break. I'm the mother of 3 teenagers, and I know that kids have been on spring break since we closed the schools last week. Like you and like most Oregonians, I love to be outside. I love to go see friends. I love to shop. But we can't do that right now, at least not in the way that we're used to. We need to find other ways to connect and to enjoy ourselves. This crisis means that we can't have parties or crowd into checkout lines and parking lots. And as much as we love Forest Park or Portland waterfront, we have to avoid crowded trails and clustering in public parks when there isn't enough space. To stop the spread of this virus, we also need to avoid group games like Frisbee, basketball, or soccer with people who are not in your household or your closest contacts. Spring is wonderful here, and people can go outside. But what we're saying tonight is that you have to maintain distance from everyone else outside of your immediate circle. Walking, jogging, cycling, and skateboarding are all okay as long as you continue to keep your social distance. You've heard 6 feet of space, so think about being a bicycle's width apart. And please stay close to home. This is not the spring break that any of us were expecting, but we are in a moment when temporary disappointment and inconvenience are the price that we pay for health and safety. Thank you.
All right, everyone. Thanks. We're going to go ahead and open it up for questions. If you can say your outlet's name, and then we'll take questions on the phone.
Dirk Van Hart with OPB. I guess I'm a little confused about what exactly
We're here tonight because we're very serious about the need to practice social distancing. Done well and done early, it saves lives. As the chair said, we've closed schools, we've closed libraries, limited access to restaurants and bars, and of course, limited social gatherings. If businesses can't offer their version of takeout, they should close. Everyone has to take this seriously, and we are here today to convey this very important message to Oregonians across the state.
But you said there's an order component of this. So what is the order component?
The answer to your question is yes. There is an order coming. We're in the process of developing the details. We're giving the public clear guidance that that order is forthcoming. We're telling people that the order will be along the lines of to stay inside your house unless absolutely necessary. You will be able to go about essential activities, including going to the grocery store, going to the pharmacy, checking in on older adults, walking with your pets, taking a hike, provided that you maintain appropriate social distancing, and you will be able to continue to go to essential employment functions.
So, Mayor Whaler, is it different in any way, despite the different nomenclature, than what you've seen in other jurisdictions that would call it shelter in place?
It will be similar to what you've seen in other states, but we're still working out the details. And with regard to your question about the nomenclature, shelter in place, it's particularly important for California and first responders here and elsewhere that we not use the nomenclature shelter in place. And what I have learned about that in the last few days is shelter in place means seek shelter where you are immediately for a relatively short duration of time. And the concern was, particularly from California, that they've spent a lot of time and energy educating their public on what shelter in place means if it goes out on the emergency broadcast system. And we don't want to confuse the public in terms of what shelter in place means. So everybody nationally is effectively moving away from that language. It's confusing.
When it comes to closures, is there any enforcement happening right now, or are we leading up to that when it comes to either restaurants or moving forward beauty salons and those types of businesses?
At this point in time, I've been very, very clear. I've asked businesses to take individual responsibility. If they can't offer the takeout version of providing services to their customers, they need to close. It's critically important, it's critically urgent, and it needs to happen now.
Do we have any idea moving forward what essential services are going to be and what's going to fall within those guidelines?
There is certainly a conversation about essential services happening, yes.
Governor Brown, it sounds like this order that's being worked out this weekend will be a statewide thing, at least if I understood you all. Just this morning you were saying it wasn't time for that. So what
Well,
has changed?
My focus is more on making sure we get the message out to Oregonians that they need to respond and take this stay home to save lives seriously. And that is why I am here tonight. It's critically important that Oregonians take this message seriously and they act on it immediately.
So is it not going to be a statewide order that we're going to see Monday? Is he
So
statewide?
we have put in place a number of directives and a number of orders. At this point in time, I am not planning an additional statewide orders or directives. There will be other issues that we will be dealing with in the coming days. For example, issues regarding housing.
So could we expect a city or county order instead of a state order here in the Portland area?
I'll let the two of them answer that. So.
Absolutely. The city of Portland is prepared to act independently, but we would rather not. We would rather act with a larger group of jurisdictions coming into alignment for obvious reasons. Pandemic flu knows no boundaries, certainly doesn't understand jurisdictional boundaries. We would like to work with as many jurisdictions as will work with us. I believe we have the opportunity over the next couple of days to come to an agreement on a broader strategy than just the city of Portland. So rather than acting alone, I believe it is worth it to wait a short period of time to see if we can act more broadly. It would make more sense to act more broadly, and it is my thinking that it makes sense to take this extra day or two and see if we can't get a broader level of support for what we're trying to do.
I just want to add to Mayor Wheeler's comment, and then you asked about potential future business closures. We are certainly looking at consumer-facing businesses that can't put social distancing measures in place. Two great examples of that include our movie theaters and our gyms. Many of them have already closed, and I want to say thank you to those businesses that have taken this level of responsibility. These are really difficult choices, and I thank you for your efforts. We will continue to have those conversations over the next few days.
Chair Ford, can I ask where, I think I understand that maybe you have said it, that you weren't ready for what some would call a shelter in place. What is your current sense of where Multnomah County should be?
Well, I agree with the mayor and the governor that I think we need to act as one. We need to have one voice. There is nothing more confusing to the public than having different jurisdictions, having different restrictions. So that has ultimately been my goal. I think the mayor explained why I have shied away from the shelter-in-place nomenclature. Well, if you look at the language, actually look at what San Francisco, what the state of California and New York have called for, it's basically what we are asking our residents of our state to do as well. We're just being using a little bit of a different language, but I still think it's the same directive, which is stay home and stay healthy.
How does this campaign affect the people who are houseless in New York?
That has been my number one concern since this pandemic started.
With the Oregon.
Yeah, that's. This has been, the question, sorry.
I can repeat the question. Everton Bailey with the Oregonian. How does this campaign affect the houseless population throughout the state?
Making sure that our homeless members of our community have access to shelter when we're asking people to stay home has been my number one pressing issue since this pandemic began. And we in Multnomah County have worked swiftly and in partnership with other local governments, the City of Portland and Metro. Today, we opened 2 new shelters, one at the Oregon Convention Center and the other one at the Charles Jordan Community Center. I would assume that in the following weeks, you will see that we are opening additional shelters to help people maintain the social distancing that we are asking everyone to do, and also to help those who are getting ill, to help people who are coming out of the hospital to relieve some of the pressure from the hospital system. So we will have, we've been working very quickly. I'm reminded that today it's been 9 days since Multnomah County declared a state of emergency, and let's just say opening up 2 shelters in that period of time has been pretty amazing. So thanks.
Governor Brown, I know you touched on enforcement when it came to businesses. Are there conversations regarding enforcement when it comes to the individual level, like if people were gathering in groups outside?
Look, I'm one of those people who believes that each one of us can make a difference, and in this case, it's absolutely true. Your behavior, our behavior as Oregonians impacts others, and our willingness to stay at home, to social distance, truly impacts others and will save lives. So I'm asking Oregonians across the state to abide by these social distancing measures. At this point in this health crisis in our state, it is imperative that our public safety workers be focused on other priorities, not requiring Oregonians to abide by these social distancing measures.
My team is also wondering, are you getting support from Republicans and rural communities when it comes to a statewide order?
That's a really good question. You know, it's been a tough few weeks with the Oregon legislature, and things have been very partisan. I received 2 phone calls last night, one from Senator Dallas Hurd from Douglas County and one from Senator Herman Bertschiger from Josephine County. They wanted to let me know that they had my back, and they supported my efforts to keep Oregonians healthy and supported the actions we're taking on a statewide basis. I also have to say I was on the call with my colleagues, my governors across the country, Democratic governors, Republican governors, right-wing, left-wing. I have to tell you, I have not seen in my 5 years as a governor the members of this organization come together like they have now. We put together a list of 5 things that we could ask the president for, and Governor Hogan read that list to the president yesterday. That list came together in a matter of minutes. We all know what our urgent needs are, and we are all working together to preserve the lives and the safety of our citizens.
Sorry, Everton Bailey from the Oregonian again. I just want to pose this question again. How does this statewide policy help the house's population across the state? Chair DeFore mentioned Baltimore County earlier, but what about the state?
So I have been focused since becoming governor on making sure that every Oregonian has a warm, safe, dry place to call home, and that that place is affordable and accessible. We've invested over $500 million in homelessness prevention, rental assistance, and building affordable units. That work has taken on a new sense of urgency with this epidemic sweeping our country and the world. And I anticipate that the legislature will come into session sometime over the next couple of weeks, and I would hope and I'm confident that this legislature will invest more resources into our community action agencies around the state to help with shelter space and providing rental assistance to our vulnerable Oregonians across the state.
I'll be more specific. Is there anything that's going to be in this campaign that will specifically address Oregonians who don't have shelter, but how can they shelter in place?
We're going to continue to focus our efforts on making sure that we provide adequate shelter space for vulnerable Oregonians.
I just wanted to ask.
Maybe one more
Yes.
from the room, and then we'll
Sure.
go to the phones.
Okay, sorry. Mayor Wheeler, I want to be absolutely clear. It is clear you're working on something and you want to have discussions. Should the public now expect something from Portland, if not a broader range of jurisdictions on Monday?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. So maybe now we can open it up for the phone line. I'll repeat the question, if you can go ahead and turn it.
Hi, this is Catherine Cook from KGW. This question addresses something that Chair DeFore mentioned about banning parties. How, on the city and county level, if at all, will you enforce that? And will people be able to report irresponsible group gatherings?
How will the city and county, Catherine Cook at KGW is asking, be able to enforce parties over the weekend or in the coming days?
At this time, we are not going to deploy our excuse me, our public safety and first responders who are busy saving lives to police people in their homes. I will have to say, as I said earlier, this takes all of us working together to all understand the seriousness of this disease. And I don't see how people can think that we're not going to let people go to work, but that they can have a big party in their house. I have to hope that Oregonians understand that when you have the major jurisdictions in your state coming together and asking you, telling you to please stay home unless it's absolutely necessary, and continue to practice social distancing measures, which means 6 feet between you and the person next to you. Thank you.
If I could also address that question. Look, the police are plenty busy with the work they have, and it is not a good deployment of police resources to be out and about following people to make sure they're monitoring social distancing. That is not a good or common sense use of those resources. So what we're asking people to do is use common sense and understand that if you are not monitoring social distancing, if you are not responsibly engaging with other people, you are putting other people's lives at risk. You may be young, you may be healthy, you may be vibrant, and you may think it's okay for you to go out and gather in a group of 20 or 30 people and have a party. But what you have to understand is when you make that choice, you are also at high risk of spreading COVID-19. And for some people who have compromised immune systems or people who are older or vulnerable for other reasons, you are putting their lives at risk. So this isn't, we're not going to turn Portland or the metro area or the state into a police state. That's not the point. What we're trying to do here is change people's behavior. Look, we're a city, we're a state, we're a people who love our freedom. That's one of the basic tenets of living in America. And so this pandemic has really thrown us a curveball because people don't like it when government tells them what to do, when they can do it, and how to do it. But the reality is, if we want to protect vulnerable populations, then those of us who aren't members of those vulnerable populations, we have to change our own behavior. So we're asking people, make that sacrifice, maintain the social distancing, stay in your homes as much as possible over the course of the weekend, engage in appropriate social distancing over the course of the weekend, do it for the people in our community whose lives depend upon it. That's what we're asking people to do, is use common sense to rise to the occasion, to come together as a community and not have to be told by the police or anybody else. At the end of the day, it will be the type of activity where you could be cited, and if the police drive by and they see a bar packed full of people, they will probably stop. I was listening to the police scanner the other day, and I know that there was a call out for that exact type situation. But that is not a good use of police resources. What we're asking is the public, again, to control the situation the way we can. Only we collectively can determine how deep this public health crisis runs and how long it lasts. So we're asking people to come together and work with us to make that happen sooner rather than later.
Can I just see if there's a question or two more on the phone for reporters?
Nick Budnick, Portland Tribune, please.
Nick Budnick, Portland Tribune.
Out there, KQ News, please.
Nick Budnick, can you go ahead?
Thank you so much. People on social media seem as confused as I am right now. It sounds as if Mayor Wheeler is saying that he will likely issue an order on Monday and hopes that the governor and Chair Kafoury will join him. It sounds as if Chair Kafoury and Governor Brown are not committing to issuing an order, but are stopping short of that. Can Governor Brown and Chair Kafoury please clarify whether they expect to join in an order or not?
Yeah, you can.
The question is whether Governor Brown, on behalf of the state, and Chair Kafoury, on behalf of the county, will be issuing additional orders. I have issued a number of executive orders and directives over the last 2 weeks. At this point in time, we have covered the vast bulk of social distancing measures. We have been extremely aggressive in terms of our social distancing measures. The reason why I am here tonight is because Oregonians need to hear that they have to take these seriously and they have to act urgently. That the only way we can slow the spread of the coronavirus is by social distancing, and that's imperative that we flatten the curve as quickly as possible. In the coming days, there will be additional orders on a variety of issues. I just mentioned earlier, we're looking at businesses that are consumer-facing businesses that can't put social distancing measures in place, like theaters and gyms. That is one example. And then we've been talking housing. We're exploring the state's ability to put a moratorium on rental evictions, and I anticipate we'll be discussing those in the next couple of days and in the next week.
Hi, Nick. This is Chair Deborah Kafoury. And the reason why I'm here is because I stand with my colleagues to say that it is my hope that on Monday we will be issuing additional orders from the state of Oregon that include additional social distancing standards for businesses who were not originally included in the order, and will continue to hone in our message and hone in our understanding that we are all together in this. I desperately, as said time and time again, that I want us to act as one voice and be consistent across our state. So that has been my goal from the beginning, and that will continue to be my goal.
Okay, I think there's one more on the phone. If we can take the last caller, there might be two.
Kelly on here, K2 News.
K2? Go ahead, Kelly.
This is for Governor Brown. Governor Brown, you started this out by saying that this is going to be a mandate or be put into effect. But yet now you're kind of going back on that, saying you're not going to necessarily put any orders in place going forward in regards to this. I think the people of Oregon would like to know on Monday, should they expect a stay home and stay healthy order, or is that something that you believe is not on the table?
I am directing Oregonians, your question is, should Oregonians be expecting additional orders from my office? I have been very, very clear that Oregonians, and I am directing Oregonians tonight to stay home, to stay healthy. Social distancing done well and done early can save lives. This plan that we have agreed on, these 3 jurisdictions, is both an order and a public awareness campaign.
Can I ask one more question?
Go ahead.
This is Mike Brennan with KGW News. And this question is for Mayor Beth Wheeler. Mayor, can you tell us if, a little bit about your communication with the governor? It seems like for a couple days now you've been talking about the shelter in place. Perhaps we don't want to say those exact terms, but tell me what it is. The shelter in place, people in California know it is. Has the governor asked you to not order a shelter in place?
Mike, I just want to answer that question. This is Governor Brown. In terms of the work we have been doing, the 3 of us have been working extremely collaboratively. We know it's critically important that we have to work together in order to get the message out to Oregonians that by staying home, we can all stay healthy, and frankly, it saves lives. Mayor Wheeler.
I generally don't disclose the contents of conversations I have with other elected leaders, especially during a time of crisis. But I will say that the communications between the governor and myself and the chair and myself have been frequent. They've been productive. We've shared a lot of information. I appreciate all the people who are engaged in the public health system, all the people who are in the medical system, the first responders. They've also been freely sharing their information with all of us. As I've said, this is a dynamic situation. It's changing day by day, even hour by hour. And so those communications are important, and they continue, and the lines are open.
Okay, I think that's it. Thank you all for coming tonight. And unless there's one more on the phone, which I don't hear, I think that's it. So again, we appreciate you coming out late on a Friday night. Thank you.